Hey, how are you today? This is Auntie Nat's Crochet. Glad you choose this tutorial video. Do subscribe to my channel. The subscribe button is at this corner over here. It will mean a lot to me. And today I'm going to make a big chrysanthemum flower. And I'm going to use lace yarn. This is lace yarn. And you will also need some wire. Mine in this case is a 0.8 mm wire. You can even get a thinner or a thicker one. Thicker one, you have to be careful. You see if it's easy to bend. If not, it's best that you get something like this or something more thin. And some green tapes to cover up this color of the wire. And I'm going to use a 2.5 mm hook. Okay, now let the fun begin. Okay, first I'm going to chain 6. I'm gonna make a knot. This is just my habit of making a knot. So once you have a knot, you chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Then you join it to the first stitch here with a slip stitch. Then can you see the hole in the middle here? You go to that hole here, just like a magic circle. You go to the hole here and start to do single crochet. Just do single crochet until the hole is sealed up. So at this point you don't have to count your stitches. You just continue to do this and hide this tail along when you're doing this. You see the hole is kind of big. So I'm going to do until the hole is sealed, which is not very long from now. And yes, you would need quite a lot of yarn, just like how we did do the fluffy tail for rabbits. The fluffy ball, you cut up all the yarn and you cut it and it becomes a ball, something like that. But this one does not require any cutting. Oops. So I'll come back to you and show you how it looked like once the hole is sealed. Actually, the starting you can actually chain 8, chain 5, chain 4. But here I just want to chain 6 because I do not want this will be the core of my flower. I do not want the core to be too small, so I start with chain 8. You can start with any number, but if your foundation chain is too small and the hole is too small, which means you didn't get to do many rounds, your flower here won't come out nice. It won't plump up like this. Those days people would make button with this. They would just continue to do single crochet until it like this, and they will sew it onto the clothes as buttons. So I'll come back to you once I have this hole totally sealed up. Okay, this is how it look like. It's almost sealed up. If you want, you can still make 1 or 2 stitch, but it's kind of plumped and difficult to do. So I'm going to cut the yarn Make sure you don't cut right here, it will come off. You cut a bit further away. And we're gonna work the yarn through and fro here. Okay, let me get my needle. Here you have to put it through some sewing needle because this is thin enough. If you use tapestry needle, it's kind of thick and very difficult to go through all this. So you just make a stitch like this into the next stitch. Then I am going to do this, make it go around. So that it won't come off so easily. And the yarn is hidden inside, in between. You can't put through anymore, I just cut the yarn. Oops. You can see this here, but it's okay because I am going to sew more and more petal down here, so it doesn't really matter. Let's cut this away and you will have a button. You can make this into a button. And you get a wire. Oops. Cut it to the length that you want. I would prefer it to be longer because it's easier to curl around another wire. I have a thicker wire so that the one that it does not bend so easily, so I can curl this around it and make it into one stalk of flower. So now I'm gonna put this, I'm gonna put through here. Sorry, there's something wrong with my phone. You have to bear with me for a while before I get a new phone. I'm not sure what's wrong with this phone. Okay, here you just put through, and it's not easy. Okay, you just put through. Make sure it's like this, and you curl up this part. Twist this part until it become one, like this, and make sure this is at the tip, and make sure this is at the tip. So now we're gonna make few more petals and make the flower grow bigger. Okay, now we make the second layer of petal. I'm gonna start with a magic circle. Gonna do a magic ring, a magic circle. I'm going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And chain 6. Then you go to the second stitch from the hook. This is the hook. This is the first stitch. This is the second stitch. You go to the second stitch and do a slip stitch. Then you do single crochet all the way down, which means you would have 4 single crochet. Then you go to the magic ring and do a slip stitch. Then again chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you go to the second stitch from the hook. You do a slip stitch, then we do single crochet all the way down. So this is my second petal. Then slip stitch into the magic ring. Then continue to build your petal here. So how many petals? It depends on your button. So how big is your button? Because even though we all do the same, chain 8, but either you chain 6 or chain 8, or maybe, even though we had the same number of chain when we started, it also depends on your thickness, the thickness of your yarn. So if your yarn is quite thick, you might get a bigger button, or like in my case, sometimes I do few more rounds, so the button turns out bigger. So you see all this, actually it has the same number of foundation chain, but I'm not sure why this turns out smaller and this turns out bigger. Maybe I did too many rounds, a few more rounds. So it depends how big is your button here. So when I put this in here and pull this magic ring, all this is, oops, sorry, I'm not sure what's wrong with my phone. All this will kind of cover up this button here. So if you want to know how many petals you should do, well, I will do 6 first. I will do 6 petals. Then I would measure it against my button. If it's too far away, I will do 8. So it all depends on your button, how big is your button. So it's supposed to curl up like this, close up to the button. So it looks as if the chrysanthemum, sometimes chrysanthemum when they open up, the core is not open up yet. It's still like this. So I want that effect. So now this part here is totally up to you. It's a chain 6, but it's up to you whether you're going to do 6 of it or 8 of it, or 7 or 9, I'm not sure, depending how big is your button. So I'll come back to you once I'm gone through one round and measure against my button. Then we'll do the second and third sets, which is slightly bigger. Okay, in the end I did 12 of this petal. So up to you how many you're gonna do. So you just bring it up here and pull the magic ring, pull it tight, then make a few stitches using this tail. Do 1 or 2 stitches so that this won't, you don't cut off so early, so near here, So I did 12. Then you are going to make sure it closes up nicely. So when I sew, I can't sew this on camera because there'll be a lot of screechy sound. So just show you roughly, you must get a normal sewing needle. This is thin enough to make this go through. So you just make sure the flower is not crooked, I mean the core is not crooked. Then you sew here, sew it here, make sure it goes through this, make sure it goes through this part here, not necessary into the middle so far, just a bit, and once on this petal here. Okay, so I need to do this in mid-air as there's no table and it does not poke me, because this is kind of pokey, so if I bend it, chances of hurting myself is kind of high, and if I straighten it, you will get this screechy sound. Okay, so I'll come back to you once I have this nicely fastened. Okay, this is how it look like. I make a few stitches here, but the top part is actually not, I didn't sew the top part here. You can actually open up the flower like this. So if you do not like to sew, if you do not like to sew, you can add glue if you want. I just make a few stitches here. You have to really hold it nicely so that it does not go crooked, because earlier I have one that went a bit crooked because it kept moving. So this one I would say is just nice. So this, let's make another row of petals. Okay, wait, let me show you how I'm gonna end it. So once you have sewn here, I make sure every petal here, I make one stitch onto the bulb here, the flower bud here, so that it looks like as if it's you know, covering it up nicely. But I did not sew until the far end. I just sew in the middle here, one stitch. So it's just one stitch here, one stitch here, here, which means, now let me show you how, since now it's nicely intact, I just make one stitch here and out the bud. It comes out from the bud, the flower bud. So that's how I attach it. But if you do not like to sew, and you just add glue. I do not want to add glue because it kind of messy sometimes. So now, in order to hide the yarn, I just make it go through this a few times, and I just cut it off. And make sure when you're doing this, make sure you also pick up some of, you go all the way to the core of the flower, that flower bud. Actually, I've made a few, so now just as an example to show you, and just cut the yarn. Then we're gonna make the second one and the third one and the fourth one. So only this one curls like this, the rest, the stitch is slightly different. Okay, now we're gonna make the next few layers of this the flower. You can do as much layer as you want. Okay, now this one will be slightly different from the first one. Yes, I'm gonna start with a magic circle, sorry. Curl it around your finger, grab the yarn and make a knot. The first row I did a chain 6, so now I'm gonna chain 8. So if you want to add more petals, the petal will be in a multiple of 2, so it's like you chain 6, so now chain 8. The next one will be chain 10, and then 12 and 14. Okay, so now chain 8, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. This time round I'm going to do slip stitch all the way. This is the hook, this is the first stitch, this is the second stitch. From here on you are going to do slip stitch all the way. So you should have 7 slip stitch. And again, slip stitch into the magic ring. And 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Again, you just slip stitch. Then slip stitch into the magic ring. So here you have, I have 2. So I'm going to make about 16 or 18 depending. So once I do about 18 of this, I will put it on and see if it's too many or too few, and I'll sew it onto the flower. So you can make as many of these as you like, then the flower will grow bigger and bigger. So I'll come back to you and show you how the flower look like after like 4 or 5 rounds of this. Okay, I just show you how this piece look like. Then you just add it in, and of course you have to do some sewing. Either you sew it or you add glue. Okay, so it's gonna be like this. So can you see my chrysanthemum is growing compared to this one. This is the curly one where the core is all curled up, it doesn't have this core. So now I try to make a different one. Let's see if you like this pattern. So I'm gonna continue to build on this and make it as big as I can, depending how big you want your flower to be. So like I said, this is chain 8. Now you can do a chain 10, then you do a chain 12. It's all slip stitch, just slip stitch, and it will not curl, it will all stay straight up like this. So when you sew, only sew on this part. You only sew here. Here you let it open up like this, so it looks more natural. Just sew 1 stitch here, 1 stitch here, 1 stitch here. No, just this part here. Just sew on this part here. Oh, I'm sorry. Just sew on this part here. So I'll come back to you and show you my version of chrysanthemum once it's when it grows, and how big is it, and what's the number of stitches in the last length. Because when you do one of this, you want to do the next one, you cannot do it with the same length. You have to go higher because this drop further down. So definitely you have to go higher. Oh, sorry, there's something wrong with my phone. So I'll come back to you once the flower gets to the size that I want. Okay, I'm just gonna show you how I sew this. This is the last last set I'm gonna do. I did from chain 6, and this last one was a chain 14. So chain 14 is this long. So which means I have 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 sets of this 5 ring that I had sewn onto this part. I had just attached this. Oops, sorry. I had just attached this. I haven't really sewn yet. I just sew a stitch of the tail. You know, there's a tail here. From when you start this, there's a tail. I just make 2 stitches here just to hold it. And now just let me show you how I sew it. Unless of course if you're using glue. So what I do is, this is the outer layer. This is the inner layer. I will go to the inner layer and just make 1 stitch. Oops. Okay. Then I make 1 stitch on this here, like this. Oops, sorry. Just 1 stitch here, and I will do another stitch on the inner petal, and this petal stays like this. So now the next one, if you want it to go nearer. So this is up to you because this is dangling here like this. So either you want to put it here, 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 here. So I want it here. I'm going to make 1 stitch on the inner petal here. Then I'm going to stitch on this petal like this. 1 here and 1 across. Just make 1 small stitch across, and it will stay in here like this. So depending how you want it to be, whether you want it to be far apart, very near, or if you can do more petal if you want. And then if you want the petal to be like, you know, 1 here, 1 here, you can control it. But if I were to use glue, I don't think I can do that. So here I just make 1 stitch here and 1 stitch on the petal inside. Okay, so this is roughly how I do it. Excuse me. So I'll come back to you once I have this nicely fastened. Okay, I have all this nicely fastened. I think this is big enough. I won't add any more petal. I mean, if you want it to go bigger, you can add more, but I think this would be big enough. So now I'm gonna make the green part. So I'm gonna start with a magic ring. Inside this magic ring or this magic circle, do 5 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 single crochet. I hope you can see there's something wrong with my phone. It's not resolved yet. So 5 single crochet. You're gonna pull tight. So I'm going to go to the first stitch. Go to the first stitch. I'm going to do single crochet all around. Just do 1 single crochet in every stitch. So you should have 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is row 2. Now we go to row 3. Row 3 I'm going to do increase. Increase means 2 single crochet into the same stitch. I should do 5 sets of it, so which means I should have 10 stitches. And this is 1 increase, 2 increase, 3 increase, oops, 4 increase, and 5 increase. So I'll have 10 stitches in this row. Now row 4. Row 4 I'm going to do 1 single crochet followed by an increase. So you should do 5 sets of this. 1 single crochet, increase, 1 single crochet, increase, one single crochet, increase, and this is the last set. 1 single crochet, increase. Let me settle this first. This it kind of had a knot. So this row 4 I should have 15 stitches. Now row 5 I'm gonna do 2 single crochet followed by an increase. One, 2, increase. You should do 5 sets of this. this is the last set. 1, 2, increase. You should have 20 stitches in this row. Now row 6, I'm going to do single crochet in the next 3 followed by an increase. This is 1, 2, 3, and you do increase. You do 5 sets of it. And the last set, one, 2, 3, and increase. And we should have 25 stitches in this row. Now row 7, you're going to do 4 single crochet followed by an increase, or should I say single crochet in the next 4 followed by an increase. This is 1, oops, 2, 3, 4, and increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. You should have 5 sets of it. And the last set, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you do increase. So this row you should have 30 stitches, and it looks like this. I'm sorry for the I hope you can see the stitches. Now I'm going to do, you see this 3 stitch, 1, 2, 3 will make one kind of petal. So 1, 2, 3 makes one petal. So I have 30 stitches here, so which means I should have 10 of this. So that's when you go to the next stitch, you do a slip stitch, then you go to this middle stitch here and do a 2 together, a double crochet, 2 together. Means you do not put through all, you do another double crochet. So you have 3 stitch on your hook and you put through all 3. Then you chain 1 and do a peacock and slip stitch, and you go to the next stitch and do a slip stitch. So it will look something like this. Here again, these 3, 1, 2, 3 will make one petal. So you go to this next stitch here and do a slip stitch, yarn over, go to the next stitch and do a double crochet together. Means you yarn over 2, you leave these 2 on your hook, yarn over and do another double crochet into the same stitch. You yarn over 2. Now you have 3 on your hook, you put through all 3. Then you chain 1, you go back to this part here and do a slip stitch. And you go to the next stitch and slip stitch. So you will have something like this. And let me show you again, just in case. You go to the next stitch, slip stitch, yarn over, do a double crochet together, you know, like the 2 together, double crochet together, 2 stitch on your hook, yarn over into the same stitch and do a double crochet, and you put through all, chain 1, go back to this stitch here and make a peacock, and you go to the next stitch and slip stitch. So you see that. So all in, you should have 10 of this, and then we're gonna sew it here. Okay, you just add it in here, tuck it in, and gonna sew this. Make sure when you sew this, all this pointy part, it's sewn nicely. Like for example here, let me make one stitch here first. Make one stitch on the flower, and one stitch on this pointy part, this part here. And you pull. So can you see it kind of, instead of curl away, so now we make one stitch here, it goes straight up like it's covering the flower. Then you go to the flower and put the needle underneath, go all the way to the other side. And again, make one stitch on this pointy part here. Like this. So once you're done with all the pointy part, if you want, you can make few stitches here. If not, you can just make just one stitch here, here, here. It's enough See, it's enough to hold it, and it does look natural, right? So you don't have to sew the whole thing. So I'll come back to you once I've nicely sew all of it, and then we're gonna wrap the green tape here to cover this part here. Okay, once I'm done with all these 10 parts here, I'll just make it go around here a bit before I cut the yarn. Just make a few stitches here and there, you know, just like when we do amigurumi. If you tried making a bear or something squishy or plushy, so you just make it go through so they won't come off easily, and you just cut the yarn. Then I would add this tape here. At the start of the tape, you just turn it this way, then turn it downwards. While you're doing this, you see the steel here, push it up to cover all those metal parts. Then you just continue to turn it downwards. This tape is a little bit sticky to the hand. It's not that sticky, but still it's a bit sticky. This is especially for flower making. And you just cut the yarn and do this a bit, twist it around. Then you give it a good shape. Shape it around. I'm sorry, I definitely have to do something about my phone. The camera is getting out of hand. So do you like this pattern? If you do, don't forget to subscribe, share, and click like. And I look forward to seeing you in my next post. Happy crocheting!